With AEW seemingly blocking WWE from booking a particular venue and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Mentioning the future of WWE on Netflix as well as what's next for UFC, Ringside News noted that big changes are on the horizon for WWE fans as Monday Night Raw heads to Netflix starting in January 2025. In a major move for live sports on streaming, WWE's new 10-year deal with Netflix will bring the iconic wrestling program to the platform exclusively, marking a historic shift in how fans can tune in. The deal also includes options for a 10-year extension or an early opt-out after 5 years. Ari Emanuel, CEO of Endeavor and TKO Group Holdings, gave fans a peek into what this means for WWE's future. You can see that Netflix wants to be in the live sports business, in live period, Emanuel explained in an interview with Bloomberg's Emily Chang. He shared his confidence in the partnership's potential, adding there's a huge chunk of the audience that are WWE fans that are not right now, based on our research, Netflix subscribers, and if they capture a portion of those, it's a huge win for them and a huge win for us. But what about UFC's future? With their $1.5 billion media rights deal with ESPN set to expire in 2025, some fans speculated that UFC might join WWE on Netflix. Emanuel quickly shut down that theory. No, he clarified. Listen, ESPN has been an incredible partner. We would love to be back with ESPN. They have been incredible to us. Bob Iger's been incredible. Jimmy's been incredible. So we'll start discussions then and move forward from there. With UFC 309 coming up at Madison Square Garden on November 16th, fans are already hyped to see Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. As the UFC considers renewing its media rights, Emanuel's comments suggest that a continued partnership with ESPN could be the most likely path forward. With WWE's Netflix debut just around the corner and UFC potentially staying with ESPN, TKO Group is positioning itself for big things in 2025. Talking about how he thinks AEW should book smaller venues for their shows, Matt Hardy said on his Extreme Life podcast, "When you're drawing 2,000 to 3,000 people, it seems like a no-brainer. Even for AEW, those situations can be tough. You don't need to book massive venues if you can't regularly fill them or at least get close to full capacity. If you're in a 10,000 or 11,000 seat building and only a couple of thousand people show up, it creates an odd vibe. People look around and think, is this cool? It's just weird. On the other hand, if you're in a smaller venue like a 2,000 seat building with TNA and the place is packed, everyone's on top of each other, going nuts. That energy is incredible. I think the same would apply to AEW. A smaller packed house creates a much better vibe for the audience and the wrestlers in the ring. As a performer, being in a big venue with only a few thousand people can make it harder to keep your adrenaline up and stay motivated. But in a smaller, more intimate setting where the crowd is wild, yelling, cheering, booing, and just going crazy, it makes a huge difference. It improves the quality of the match and inspires you to work harder and be better. When you're wrestling in a venue with lots of empty seats, especially if areas are tarped off, it can mess with your mindset. It's trickier to have a great match in that kind of atmosphere compared to when you're in a packed house with an electric crowd. As Mike Bailey recently departed TNA Wrestling, Matt Hardy mentioned this on his podcast regarding Bailey potentially going to AEW. I think he's an ideal fit for AEW, especially with their style and the kind of matches they typically aim to produce on television. He's going to do great out there. I have nothing but the greatest things to say about Mike Bailey. My time working with him has been a pleasure. He really gets it. He understands classic wrestling and storytelling a lot better than I initially expected. I knew him as a guy who did all these flashy, super cool, fancy moves. He's an incredible athlete, but he also has a great mind for the business. The one concern I have for him in AEW is that with so many people there who have amazing styles and high work rates, I just hope he doesn't get lost in the shuffle. I really hope they allow him to stand out in the way that Speedball Mike Bailey truly can. Staying on the topic of Mike Bailey, Ringside News said this regarding where he will likely end up. The wrestling world will be excited to hear that Speedball Mike Bailey is on the verge of becoming All Elite. Following his impactful tenure in TNA, which concluded with his contract expiring on November 1st, 2024, Bailey's next steps have been a topic of intense speculation. According to an update from Fightful Select, sources within TNA and those close to Bailey have indicated that the performer is headed to AEW. Bailey's departure from TNA came after a run that saw him capture the X Division Championship and solidify himself as one of the most exciting talents on the roster. While his image still lingers on promotional material, Bailey's absence from recent tapings and recent trademark filings for his wrestling name pointed to an imminent career move. Reports confirm that Bailey completed his TNA obligations at the Detroit taping, signaling the end of an era. However, despite being spotted backstage at an AEW show over the summer with no formal discussions at the time, the renewed interest in him as a free agent has turned heads across the industry. WWE, once interested in signing Bailey before his TNA stint, is rumored to have kept an eye on him, but it now seems AEW has won the race. Adding fuel to the fire, sources have noted that if Bailey were headed to NXT or WWE, there would have been no need to formally write him off TNA programming. This only strengthens the belief that AEW is the destination for the popular star. Bailey is highly respected by peers and fans alike for his electric, high-octane style. His reputation as a standout performer has many expecting big things from him in AEW. As if to give fans a preview of what's to come, Bailey is slated to face AEW Shelton Benjamin in a high-profile match at WrestleCade on November 30th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a match that could further build anticipation for his AEW debut. With his future seemingly aligned with AEW's dynamic roster, the possibilities for Speedball Mike Bailey are endless. Fans are now waiting eagerly for an official announcement and to see how Bailey's explosive talent will fit into AEW's landscape. Taking to Instagram, former WWE star Batista revealed that his dog passed away, writing, "In loving memory of my sweet baby boy. He fought with everything he had. I hope I made him as happy as he made me. Thank you to everyone who gave him a smile, a kind word, a loving message, or a pat on the head. He loved people, he loved animals. He loved his sisters, mostly Maggie. He loved sunbathing. He loved stealing everyone's toys, and more than anything, he loved bedtime. Good night, Ollie. We love you." Also, another signing to the WWE ID program was revealed, with Chris Riddle writing on X, "The reign of the Reaper just got taken to another level. Congratulations to the reigning FSP Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Jackson Drake, on receiving his earned WWE ID tonight at Afterburn, presented by Cozone Pro." For a health update on Konnan, Ringside News wrote that Konnan is widely regarded as a legend in the professional wrestling world, but for the past couple of years he has been dealing with health issues. Unfortunately, it appears Konnan has been hospitalized for almost a month due to diverticulitis. Last year, Konnan dealt with kidney problems as his health issues got progressively worse to the point that Konnan needed a kidney donor to treat his problems. He then started dialysis for his kidney problems and would eventually find a donor for his issues. However, according to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Konnan has been hospitalized for the past 26 days due to diverticulitis and other health complications related to it. It was noted that Konnan is hopeful to be discharged and return home this weekend for the first time. Asked if he wanted to have a pro wrestling send-off similar to Sting's, AEW's Kenny Omega told Fightful, "To be selfish, I can tell you I was at Sting's final match. He was the first professional wrestler I ever saw on a screen, and I was like, I've got to get more of this. I've got to see more of this. To see the type of send-off he got, which could not have been more perfect. Is there part of you sitting at home and thinking, yeah, I've done a lot of stuff and it is great. I've accomplished these things, but it would sure be nice to have that kind of send-off. Sure, it would be nice. Oh, absolutely. You know, with the way that Sting was able to retire, and even in the way Bryan Danielson was able to retire. Sure, he had to go out with a loss, and there was even an attempted murder in the storyline, but all that being said, he was able to go out with an incredible in-ring performance, and it was nothing short of inspirational. To wrestle at the highest level on our current AEW roster and deliver that kind of performance, and to call that your last match, if indeed it is his last match, I think that's a great way to go out. In that sense, if it were over for me, I'd be a little bit jealous of the way Bryan was able to go out, even though, like I said, it was with a loss and not under the most favorable of circumstances. During that same interview, Kenny Omega talked about a return of the YouTube series being the Elite, saying for BTE, it was a gigantic commitment for everyone involved. I really do think that as BTE grew and our cast expanded, along with the quality of the episodes, it became too much work for just one person to shoulder. I feel like if it were ever to come back, it would probably need an actual crew. We'd need a dedicated cameraman, people to edit the footage, and at this point, someone to handle post-production effects and things like that, because things evolve and change. The time and quality demands just didn't match the time we had to give to the series anymore. By the end, BTE kind of became its own thing. There were moments when it felt more like a Dark Order show, and there were times when it featured wrestlers who didn't have spots on TV, giving them something to do for the week. I was more than thrilled for it to be a platform for those individuals. That said, I totally respect the reason why it had to end. I don't know, maybe one day it could come back, but for now, it's just not feasible. It appears that NXT won't be able to book a particular venue due to AEW, as Ringside News wrote that drama is heating up between wrestling giants WWE and AEW after WWE NXT's successful event at Philadelphia's legendary 2300 Arena earlier this month. The brand aimed to keep the momentum rolling by booking the iconic Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, but according to the latest reports, AEW had already swooped in and secured their dates, putting a stop to WWE's plans. Sources like Beyond the Bell's Andrew Zarian and Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp revealed that AEW has locked in the Hammerstein Ballroom for December 20th, where they'll host the highly anticipated ROH Final Battle, followed by an episode of AEW Collision on December 21st. Wrestling Observer Newsletter's Dave Meltzer added that WWE NXT's desired date was just too close to AEW's booked shows, leading to an inevitable clash that NXT couldn't win. This isn't just any venue either. The Hammerstein Ballroom holds a special place in wrestling history. It was the home of many classic ECW events before WWE held its unforgettable one-night stand pay-per-views in 2005 and 2006. It's no wonder WWE wanted to mark its territory here again. With this latest venue drama, it's clear that WWE and AEW are not just battling in the ring, but in the business of securing prime wrestling real estate. The race to book iconic venues signals that the competition between these two powerhouses is more intense than ever. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.